Another Cougar Coaches Show here on MediaCom Channel 22, also online at ColumbiaCougars.com. My name is Cosmo, play-by-play voice of the Cougar soccer teams. And for the first time, the assistant head coach, Meghan Gill. Coach, welcome.
Thank you. Thanks for having me.
Usually it's Coach John Klein in the hot seat, as you like to call it. But it's time to bring you on board on one of these shows and talk a little Cougar soccer with both teams. Let's real quick introduce you a little bit. You've been with the program now since its inception. You first were a grad assistant for a couple seasons, and now the assistant coach for the last couple years with the programs of the women's team in their fourth season. Hard to believe that Kelly Westhuse and Mallory Page are the two seniors. Talk a little bit about your time here at Columbia College.
It's been great. It's been a great experience working with Coach Klein and with everyone in the athletic department. I think that's what, after my grad assistantship was up, allowed me to stay on, knowing the atmosphere that's here, the environment, and it's just a great place to work at. And working with our student athletes, it's unbeatable in a lot of places out there.
Now, for those of you who don't know, you played soccer at Penn State, a Big Ten school, had some all-academic honors, some conference honors as well. What position did you play? And talk a little bit about your playing time at Penn State for the Nittany Lions.
Predominantly, I went in as a center mid. Got a few chances, opportunities there early on, and primarily moved to outside mid as my career went on. Had a few knee injuries, 2 seasons of knee injuries, so that was a little tough, but great playing experience and wouldn't change it for the world. And I think, I tell a lot of people, I think that's what drew me to coaching was having those injury years though, being on the sideline and seeing the game from a different perspective. I still enjoyed that aspect of it and trying to coach up my teammates or lead in a different way, and that's what brought me to coaching.
Also psychic, because that was going to be my segue. What drew you from being player to coach? Because a lot of times people think that that's the obvious easy transition just because you're a good player, that you can be a good coach, and a lot of times that's not the case. A lot of times great players just can't seem to coach or have the patience to be able to coach or teach student athletes how to play. So it was the fact that there was a few times where you were not able to play that was kind of what drew you.
Yeah, I physically couldn't be on the field, so that gave me an opportunity to learn the game from a different perspective, from the more tactical side than just training the technical side of the game, and working with the coaches. Our coaches were great in bringing me and another girl who tore ACL into a lot more of those meetings and video work and that sort of thing. So it gave me a different perspective, made me see the game from a different side, and enabled me to teach my teammates that as well as I went on as an upperclassman.
And then getting the fact that the assistant official position, when Coach Deshay moved on to take his job at Ottawa, then you threw your hat in the ring and went through the whole process all over again.
Yeah, like I said, after being here for 2 years, it seemed like not long enough, just great atmosphere. Love working with Coach Klein and everyone in the athletic department, Cindy, Drew, Bob, Brian, Kim. The support here is unbelievable, and working with Coach has been a great opportunity and learning experience for me as a young coach.
Besides the obvious differences between the men's soccer team and the women's soccer team being guys and girls, what is the main difference between coaching and being on the staff for both teams, other than obviously the workload being kind of double? Some schools have independent staffs for both teams, and a lot of schools have, like we do here at Columbia College, where the head coach of the men's team and the assistant coaches are the same for both programs. Talk a little bit about what that's been like coaching, and what's the difference between the two teams?
It's been a great experience for me personally. Coming from playing on a women's team, I understood the dynamic and the chemistry. On the men's side, it's a little bit different, and having a lot of international players, which I wasn't used to playing-wise, brought a different aspect to the game as well. And I think the history on the men's side is there, whereas the women kind of had to create that history in these past few years. So that's been fun to see, that perspective, and then the dynamics of the men's team, and I guess I don't know how to say it, but the way they interact and the personalities on the men's side, it's a different interaction than the women's side for sure. Being able to egg each other on the field, and then off the field you're still friends. Whereas maybe on the women's side you hold a little bit more grudges and stuff like that. So it's a different dynamic, and it's a lot of fun to work with both.
We went right there here on this episode. That's great. No, but that's exactly. I mean, those things are all part of coaching and trying to keep that chemistry together. both keeping the game plan mission together, keeping the practice plan together, and then getting out and executing when it comes down to those 90 minutes on game night. Between the two teams, as you mentioned, with the women's team, all the firsts, everything was a first forever. It was the first player, and then it was the first win, and then it was the first this, and this season brought the first top 25 ranking. Unfortunately, it was a little bit short-lived, but you're right back into that, right outside the top 25 again. Talk about how special. I know we don't try and dwell too much on that number on the left side of the name, and we were more worried about the numbers on the right, but talk about how important that was for especially those two seniors, Kelly and Mallory that we mentioned, but the program in general.
Yeah, it was very exciting. I know it's been a few years coming. We thought maybe 2 years ago, in our second year, we had a chance. But I think maybe that history and not having that kind of background on a national stage, other coaches don't really see that as well. So, yeah, for them to get that ranking finally to break through, it was kind of that thing, that glass ceiling, trying to break through it. And to break through, and it, like you said, it was short-lived, but now I think we have that respect a little bit more on the national stage, and they're like, okay, this team is good, this conference is strong, and these guys are legit. They can be in the top 25, being in nationals the last 2 years, and competing against the top teams in the country.
And strategy-wise, really, the teams are built similar. I know when the announcement was made years ago that women's soccer was coming, people were always asking me, okay, so how I'm like, they'll compete instantly, immediately. They'll be right in the middle of it, and obviously they have more local players, I think, than the men's team does, where the men's team is a little more international based, but it's also fun to watch on the women's team. You look down the list and you see Moberly, Helias, Rockbridge now with Lori Frew, and really making a name for herself with this team, and gelling those players together, built from the defense up. On both sides of the ball, that back four has always been very important to Coach Klein, and another women's team has certainly shown that too.
Yeah, I think that's a big part of winning soccer games. I mean, you have to put the ball in the back of the net, but if you don't let any go in, you at least have a chance to, like you said, one chance in a game, you get it and you score, and you keep the ball in your net, you win the game 1-0. So defense has been strong, and yeah, getting that core of Columbia for the women's side has been a big important aspect, and still drawing more for next year out of mid-Missouri. There's such strong programs and players here in mid-Missouri that maybe are overlooked because you look to the big cities, St. Louis and Kansas City, for top prospects. But there's so many kids here that are quality and definitely have made an impact on our team so far.
Most definitely. And then it's amazing how the recruiting side works at that level, with teammates now in college want to recruit their former teammates and classmates from high school teams, and helps open you guys some doors. One of the themes I know with the women's team is trying to strike early and get those quick goals, and you've been able to do that quite a bit, and that changes a match completely when you can come out in the first 10, 15 minutes and get on the board.
Yeah, I think one of our biggest things this year has been getting those goals early. I think last year we struggled to build that momentum throughout the game, so you get on the board early, that momentum's on your side. We have the speed and the pace and the players to do that. So it's been great so far. We want to keep it going as the season continues.
Most definitely, yeah. I know coming in, that was a question mark really on both men's team and the women's team. Of you lost a lot of players that scored a lot of goals on both sides, and where is these goals going to come from, and how are we going to get the production? And from the women's side especially. Lori Frew's been unbelievable coming back after the knee injury. Any doubt that her injury as well past her was over in the first handful of games. And you've been able to use a lot of interchangeable parts, and they've had to with some injuries, especially to Taylor in the back four, and you kind of had to move some things around. But all of a sudden you've found about 5 weapons that I think you knew they had a lot of talent, but to be able to have them show up on the stat sheet like they have has been pretty impressive.
Yeah, to be able to actually finish in a game. So I know that's what we work on a lot in training is being able to finish, not just shoot a ball from 30 yards and hope it goes in the back of the net. So we've definitely worked on our attack a bit, finding the ball wide and getting numbers in the box. And then, yeah, we have the players with the talent to do so. As just the confidence, and the practice, just the repetitions of it, so that when they get in the game, they're confident in just finding those corners and placing it in the back of the net.
And the men's team, again, trying to find those offensive weapons. And again, the back four are very solid. And here it's one of those moments where you sit there and you go, wait, Corey McDonald's a senior already? Wait, hold on, didn't he just? That was all the big question mark with Nikola Velichkovic, who's now one of the grad assistants, was how are we going to replace this back four? And you seem to kind of reload on that back four, and then offensively, several different weapons. Eden Kemper is really coming on strong, and all the guys are really kind of clicking offensively, just like the girls are.
Yeah. I think that dynamic of having one group that consistently works together has been a big thing for us this year. And in practice too, just being able to push each other this year a little bit more, having the numbers, and like I said, it's not just the players on the bench or on the field for the guys. I mean, we can go to the bench knowing that we have more people coming in to finish. But yeah, definitely I think Eden and Vadim and Louise and Mitch and Powers and Fells have all shown that they can finish, and I think it creates that dynamic where a team can't focus on one player. It makes it dangerous in the attack, because if you're shutting down this player, well, we have 5 other guys that can score. So.
And that's part of the reason why both the tems are sitting right there at the top of the conference. 5 games left, 1 more home game. By the time this airs, that will be in the books. But a historic night, the first, well, not the first senior night, but there's been a couple others, but the first senior night for the 4-year seniors with Mallory and Kelly. Talk a little bit about the conference. Down the stretch, 4 games to go. A couple of them on paper are going to be easier than others. Obviously, you got to try to win them all to finish out. And have Park and Hannibal aren't letting you guys run away with things this year at all for either side.
Yeah, no, it's not going to be easy. Definitely 5 solid games in the next 3 weeks, so busy time. And our conference is just getting better from top to bottom. We have the new team, Central Baptist, out of Arkansas. We play them this weekend, and they've gotten a few results in conference on the men's side. So we know it's not going to be an easy week playing Friday or Wednesday, Friday, Saturday. So we just have to be ready and prepared and recover after every game and get ready for the next one.
Well, I think for the men's team, the women's team has won the conference for a couple years in a row, and the men's team has been right there at the top. And over the last 4 or 5 seasons, a tie here or a couple ties here or 1-0 loss to Hannibal on the road has always kind of tripped them up. And I know that that's something it's been one of the major goals for this team on the men's side, is to win that AMC regular season championship.
Yeah, that's been a focus this year. I mean, the guys were discussing it in preseason, saying, hey, we've been this close. 1 tie changes the game. Let's just come out and not have any questions to whether or not we're going to win this. Let's just come out and play every game like it's our last and win it and move on to the next one at a time. So, and they've taken each game one at a time, and we're looking to continue that tonight.
An 8-game winning streak heading into the game against Park on Wednesday, the 13th, 14th, with the 8-game winning streak, and they've been rewarded for that with a number 21 ranking into the top 25 for the first time. And again, not focusing too much on that number, but that's also got to be a good morale booster for them to show the fruits of their labor are paying off a little bit in that ranking. It helps.
Yeah, I think it's the same as the girls, where it's like I think it hasn't been since 2013 we've been ranked, but we've been right there. 1 tie, 1 loss, and you don't get in that ranking because there's only 25 out of the whole country. So I think that getting back into it and showing that, hey, we're here to stay now, is a big thing for the men, and I think we can if we just take it 1 game at a time.
We're talking with Meghan Gill, the assistant coach for both the men and women's soccer teams at Columbia College, as they head down the stretch. They finished the season on the road with 4 straight road games, and then if they stay where they're at right now in the standings, we'll hopefully play a handful of games each on the turf at our Marvin Owens. What's been the difference, the biggest difference, besides not having to paint the lines on the field any longer as part of your pregame ritual? Has there been a big difference between the natural grass and the turf field?
We haven't found too many differences, really, besides just getting used to the surface. It's slightly different in the speed of play and the bounce, but not really that much. And playing on it consistently, our players have had no issues, really, with, that ball's bouncing too much today, or it hit a divot. It's not going to hit any divots out there. So I think the consistency of it has been great, actually. A more improved practice, more improved consistency within games, and there's no questions on where the ball is going to be
I'm talking to you the other night at one of the volleyball matches. You were coming back from a recruiting trip. That's also part of your duties. Talk a little about that side of the coaching job, finding the future student athletes for Columbia College.
Yeah, well, like you said, that's the important part for the next year. You got to be consistently on it, being with both programs, it's a bit busy, trying to get out here and there, but knowing you have training for both teams every day. So we're out quite a bit, actually. Nicola's been out to 2 or 3 games. I'm heading out again tomorrow and been out to 1 or 2 games. So I think just consistently finding those players that are here, not just, like I said, in Columbia, not just St. Louis, Kansas City, or out of state internationally. We get a lot of videos on that aspect, but I think finding the players that are right around here are going to build a good core for us, and I think that's what we've done and are going to try to continue to do.
What's your favorite part about coaching? Besides the driving to all those roads, no, the recruiting drive is probably the worst part. Getting there is the fun part, recruiting-wise, and meeting the athletes, but that drive is probably not your favorite.
No, driving is, glad I don't have to drive the school bus or something to the games, but like they used to do. Coach explained they always drive the Cougar mover. But I think the training sessions and trying to work with the players and see them understand it and get what you want to do, and then implementing that either in practice or games. I think seeing them have the success has been the most fun part of coaching for me. Is, okay, we're working on this today and we have a game tomorrow, we want to try and use this in a game. The next game they come out and do it and you're like, wow, that's awesome, for them to be able
listen.
Yeah, that's another thing. Yeah, they listen, but just seeing them succeed on the field and working with them, trying to help them succeed, has been, I think, the most rewarding part of coaching.
All right, as we wrap things up a little bit with Meghan Gill, let's do a little word association. One from each team, and then we'll start with, let's go with Ian McTurk, the goaltender right now, the starting goalie, who's taken over the top job on the men's team in, 5 shutouts or something, and 8 wins in a row, I think, for him. Defensive Player of the Week, a couple of weeks in a row in the conference. First couple words that come to mind when you hear Ian McTurk.
Yeah, I'd say solid. Just solid and consistent back there. He's been a brick wall for us, and not just him, but organizing our back line. So I think that's been the biggest thing. I would say he's been solid.
Certainly not your stereotypical taller goaltender, but certainly can cover the ground he needs, and definitely a vocal leader back there on the defensive side of things. For the women's team, we'll go with Mallory Page.
I say leader. I mean, she's just shown in her 4 years being on that back line, just leading this team on and off the field, bringing them together. As you said, with the girls team, you want to have that chemistry, and she's really brought the team together, and her and Kelly being here for 4 years, leading this team into those first national ranking, right now undefeated in conference. I think she's just been a huge leader for us.
We'll finish with one more, John Klein. Couldn't resist it, had to do it.
No, I guess, I don't know what the word would be. He's been awesome as a coworker, and then as a boss. Just to work with him and his knowledge and expertise, and it's been, like I said, I guess it's just been an unbelievable experience for me so far as an assistant working under him.
Final weeks of the regular season. Good luck. We'll see where the Cougars stack up in the brackets for the tournament, and hopefully bids for both squads to the national tournament coming up here this late fall into winter.
And that's what we're hoping for. Like I said, one game at a time.
That's right, one game at a time. Meghan Gill, assistant coach for the soccer programs. Keep an eye on ColumbiaCougars.com for the postseason brackets for the teams. See when they get back home next at at our Marvin, outside on the turf. Not an indoor team, both play outdoors, and get a chance to come out and see the facility. Meghan Gill, wrapping things up here, talking Cougars soccer on ColumbiaCougars.com and MediaCom Channel 22.
There's a lot to love about TiVo DVR service from MediaCom. Check it out.
A movie, a show, an actor. I just type it in and TiVo finds it wherever it is. I can even search the web.
YouTube, Spotify, Netflix, and more right on my TV.
Plus, with TiVo, I can set a recording from anywhere.
And download my recorded shows to watch on the go.
Complete your MediaCom entertainment package with TiVo DVR and save with free installation. Call 888-SIMPLIFY now.
Another edition of the Cougar Coaches Show here on MediaCom Channel 22, online at ColumbiaCougars.com. My name is Cosmo, and another new guest. We had Meghan Gill on, assistant coach for the soccer teams, and now Tracy Jex, new assistant coach for track and field, also helping out with cross country with Coach Cornell. Tracy, welcome to Columbia College and to the track and field program.
Thank you.
Let's talk a little bit about your resume. You come to Columbia from in the AMC Conference. You were at Hannibal LaGrange for a number of years. Talk a little bit about your time there and kind of what drew you to Columbia College.
Yeah, I spent 4 years at Hannibal LaGrange University as the head track and field and cross country coach. Loved it, had a good time. We did pretty well. We produced 30 national qualifiers. We had 6 All-Americans, some in the first women's cross country All-American, the first women's track All-American. So we had some great highlights. We broke over 50 school records and things like that. So it was good. What attracted me to here was a chance to work with Coach Cornell and to be a part of a brand new program. Very rarely in coaching do you get the chance to start a brand new thing and kind of put your stamp on it. And having that opportunity is something that drew me here, and the competitive culture that Columbia College has and success that they've had in athletics.
Sports, especially here with the last handful of years, 5, 6, 7 years, with the additions of all the programs. And we were just talking with Meghan in the last episode about the addition of women's soccer now in their 4th year. Same for the cross country, which in some avenues you think, holy cow, we're already to year 4. And before we know it, we'll be doing the same thing with track and field. But the numbers of athletes that you end up talking about when you start talking, I know we've talked with Coach Cornell over the weeks and months since the announcement, and the process is beginning with obviously with your hiring and now the recruiting, and now you continue to build. Where is the process, or where are things at right now with all of that?
Yeah, we're actively recruiting. We are circumnavigating the globe, the United States, looking for athletes that want to be a part of this program and kind of put their stamp on it, and again, be on the ground floor of something really cool.
The same reason you like the job is also, I think, a lot of reason why, and I've heard it from soccer players and some of the other runners and golfers when they started the golf program, that whether they're local or not, to say, hey, I was one of the first members of this program. I got a great education and had a chance to come to a top level school and compete with a brand new track and field team. It's got to be a big part of the sell.
Yeah, it is. And I think that's something that we definitely want student athletes to know about this place and what we're trying to do, and the fact that we've talked to kids from Texas, Colorado, New Mexico, Missouri, Iowa, Illinois, even across the globe, international students as well, trying to just broaden our, just like the school is trying to broaden itself with adding more sports, we're trying to broaden ourselves with more student athletes. So.
And I think the one thing with track and field that's so different from a soccer team or Bob Burchard's basketball team or Melinda Wright Washington's volleyball team is that there's so many different, especially with track and field, cross country, obviously it's running, but you've got so many different disciplines with hurdles and the throwing events and all the different distances and all of that. How does that, I mean, that makes things completely different. And individual-wise as well, which is whole nother side of things.
Yeah, individually, I mean, we can go after a pole vaulter, we can go after a thrower, we can go after all those types of athletes, and they can kind of focus in on that. We're trying to kind of build the team around people who can do multiple disciplines, but definitely in the future will definitely set us up to have a group of pole vaulters, a group of throwers, a group of sprinters, jumpers, things like that we can really focus in on and then recruit those type of athletes.
Because when you get into the competitions, when you go to the track and field meets, you don't necessarily have to have an entry in every single discipline to qualify, if you will. There's certain levels of how points are scored, and some of that I lose track of how the heck that even works. But certainly the more opportunities you have to have athletes enter, that increases your opportunities to score more points and win more meets.
Yeah, obviously the more people you put in all the events, the more chances you have to score points. But in track and field, you definitely, and that's what we're trying to do. We're trying to build a team that can compete competitively on the conference side and keep the same standard that Columbia College has always had, being in the top part of the AMC, but also compete at a national level as well. And when you get to nationals, you want to score points in a broad sense of the events, the sprints, the distances, the jumps, the hurdles, and those types of events. But at a conference level, it could be almost more about numbers. Getting more people into those events is going to make a huge difference.
We're talking with Tracy Jex, the new assistant to track and field coach, and you're also helping a little bit with cross country as well with Coach Tim Cornell on that front. So that's another level to, and obviously some of those guys and girls also cross over, pardon the bad pun there, into running in some track and field disciplines as well, both indoor and outdoor when those seasons come around. What has that been like with the success of those two programs? The cross country side of things has been very good off the start.
I can tell you it's better to be here competing with Tim than competing against him. He's done a great job building that cross-country program and on both sides, in the men's and the women's. And it's been really fun to see a different side of this program and what he's done and how he does things, what he does, how he does them, and then to see what our team is doing. On the men's side, it's unbelievable. We have a men's team that is top 20 in the nation right now, and definitely could be better and could do some really good things, and a women's team that's coming together and could honestly surprise some people at the conference level and maybe even have an outside shot on some individual qualifiers.
And that's the fun thing. I've always been intrigued by talking with Tim on this show about how you coach at a meet or at an event like track and field. It's not like John Klein on the soccer field where he can obviously direct some traffic there, if you will, or Bob Bircher call a timeout and go, hey, let's go, what are we doing? It's a little different when the gun goes off and they're running for 15 miles. And you're coaching to some degree, but talk about the discipline of coaching a sport like track and field and cross country versus volleyball or softball or soccer.
Well, I was talking to Coach Klein about that the other day, actually, just how halfway through a soccer game, you can sub somebody in for somebody. And we can't do that in a cross-country race or a track meet. I can't yank somebody off at 200 meters and put somebody else in who might be able to finish the race a little bit faster.
That could be a whole new event where you tag someone in or something.
We could work on that. So there's definitely that dynamic. The student athletes have to be self-motivated, and they have to just have to have that desire to compete for themselves as well as competing for their team. In the aspect of coaching, you're definitely maybe more of a motivator. It's not a lot of X's and O's. You're definitely just trying to get them to believe more in themselves, what they can do, and see that they can do that. And once they do, they can skyrocket and do really well.
And I think with it being more focused individually, and that's a lot with golf as well as other sports that are more individual and team, and really all the teams have utilized it. It's become such a big part of sports is the mental side of things and as well as the physical. There's weights to lift, but then there's also that how do you focus your brain to work through a hard part of a run or to compete in those kind of events. Not always the easiest thing to coach and help mentor, if you will.
No, and sometimes you have days where you don't want to, you don't know what's wrong and you can't fix it, and you just stay consistent. Running is all about consistency, whether it's on the track or it's on the cross-country course.
Especially when their minds cluttered with exams, school, mom, dad, when's Thanksgiving, when's, all those kind of things. Roommates in the dorm that they have, figuring out all that kind of stuff. It's a different element. Talk about the rest of the seasons. I know there's so many different aspects to when the cross-country teams are in season right now. Talk about what's ahead for the teams as far as schedule-wise.
Yeah, so right now the track team is just getting ready. They're practicing. Our first meet for track and field won't be till January, actually, for indoor competition. So they're just really working hard, practicing, trying to get better every day. On the cross-country side, our next race is August 24th in Cedar Rapids, Iowa, at the NAI Seminole Valley race. The NAI has a group of regional meets that will compete against NAI-only teams, so we'll get a good chance to see where we fit regionally. And then conference is on November 6th, so that will set us up to go to Nationals. Nationals is November 21st at Charlotte, North Carolina. So.
And a lot of the meets too, you end up competing with NCAA level, the Division I, Division II, and that's another aspect to track and field and cross country where it's the skill level is or the division level, if you will, kind of gets split evenly, and you can compete with some of the bigger name schools, if you will.
Yeah, that's probably the coolest thing about track and cross country is there's delineations between the NCAA and the NAI and then divisions, but ultimately when you put them all on a course or a track, everyone's got to race each other. And so and some of those schools don't like getting beat by NAI schools or Division II or Division III, but that's definitely what we want to do, is definitely compete against those types of schools and those types of programs that are well known. Missouri, University of Central Missouri, all those schools that we want to compete against that eventually we want to beat.
Absolutely. What if we come back in a year? How many track and field athletes? What's the goal for where that program would be if we come back here in October, middle October of 2016? Coach Jackson, we're talking about the new discus record thrower, and we got how many? Having the Cougar Madness event the other night and thinking ahead, there's going to be 40, 50 baseball players on campus here soon. There's going to be how many track and field athletes? What do you think?
The number that we talked about is about 80. Wow. 80 track and field, including the cross country and distance athletes. So, yeah, it's going to be a task, but
a few more recruiting trips to go.
Yeah. That's a good number for a track team. You figure through all the disciplines, you have about 10 people in each discipline. Jumps, hurdles, sprints, throws. You're looking at 50, 60 people there. So what's great is we're not doing it alone. Tim and I aren't doing it alone. We've got a great staff with Derek Peterson helping out with the sprints and relays and hurdles, and Barry Nichols helping out with throws. We've got a great graduate assistant, Anissa Angelasante, who's also helping out on the distance side. And so we're not doing it alone. And that's what makes it really great, is when you have those types of people working with you that can help, then that number doesn't seem so daunting. So.
Well, welcome to Columbia College. Congratulations. Good luck on congratulations on the success so far. Good luck on the future on getting to that 80. We're going to mark the tape and see where we're at next. I'm just kidding. See where we're at next October. Good luck the rest of the way here, and excited to watch this program build.
Thank you very much.
Right. Tracy Jackson, new assistant coach for track and field, and helping Coach Cornell as well with the cross country and the building of that track and field program. You can learn more about the coaching staff and the athletes as they come on board with stats and videos and much more on the website at ColumbiaCougars.com. Thanks for watching Cougar Coaches Show, Mediacom Channel 22.